It's been a really long time since we've done this, hasn't it? I think it's time in this video to do a big update on my Waterbox 220-gallon reef tank, which is doing a lot better, but a lot has happened since my last update on this tank. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. But before I get started, I owe you guys a little bit of an apology because I kind of disappeared off of the face of YouTube suddenly, abruptly. I have been studying to take the bar exam, which I took last week, and I have to say it's just as awful as they make it out to be. Truly, I am so glad that the past few months are now over and I get to relax and just spend time with my tank again, and you know, life is good. I'm so glad it's over, but yeah, it's time we do an update on this tank. I don't even know where to begin because so much has happened. None of it has been good, but I am lucky that things are on the mend again. Basically, it kind of all started a few weeks before I posted my last update on this tank. My red, beloved, beautiful Ghani started receding and retracting and losing flesh, and I was freaking out when this happened. I didn't know what was going on, why all of a sudden it just, you know, RTN on me, but I knew something was wrong with the tank. So I did a quick Cipro dip, and that ended up bringing my beloved Ghani looking good again. I mean, really good again. And it grew back so quickly. This thing is like a little monster again. Once the Ghani started retracting, a couple of acro frags that I had actually just recently added into my tank at that time also started to lose some tissue. And I was like, oh no. Like, this is really bad. Something's going on with my tank. I just was not really sure why. I wanted to do like a big test to see what happened. Everything was going wrong with my corals so quickly, like one after another, that I didn't really have time to react. I had to act quickly. It was when this all happened like over the span of a few days, right? So once my favorite Scully, my beloved gold, like the Scully is just my life. It's one of my favorite corals in my tank. Once it started receding, I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I need to get up and do something quickly before I lose everything. That poor Scully, I wish I had videos, but that poor Scully, its skeleton was showing. I mean, when I went to bed, it was puffed up and happy, and when I woke up, there was skeleton, and the whole Scully was just completely receded, really unhappy, and I was like, this, we gotta do something. So because the Cipro dip worked really well on that Ghani, I was just like, you know what? Let's just do the entire tank. And I haven't really seen much online about people doing this. I've seen a couple people do it, Ciproing the entire tank, and I was just like, you know what? It's worth a shot because I really don't want to risk losing any corals. So that's exactly what I did. I added 2 pills of Cipro at night, every single night for about a week or so, I want to say. And it's so annoying because you have to get up at 2 a.m. to add it into your tank because Cipro cannot be absorbed during the light period, and it was just a pain. But sure enough, y'all, every RTN stopped, and now everything is doing 10 times better. I mean, all my corals are really puffed up, really happy, except the Duncans. The Duncans are still like pissed, but I'll get to them in a second. Other than that, everything's just, yeah, super freaking happy, and I couldn't be happier seeing that it actually worked. But I don't know if in the process of adding that Cipro to my tank, it killed like all of the bacteria, because now I've noticed that, you know, a few of the polyps on my acros are looking kind of funky, but I don't know, it's whatever. What I really need to do is I need to add live rock to more live rock. I have a little bit, but add more live rock to seed the tank. Get some more wild bacteria, you know, in this thing, because y'all, I made the biggest mistake when I started this tank. At the time I started this tank, I was experiencing aptasia for the first time in my 40-gallon, and my tank looked so bad, and it was so hard trying to get rid of it all. I was simultaneously like trying to set up this big tank, and I was just like, we're gonna gonna do it bottled bacteria. There's gonna be no way that any kind of contamination's going to happen. I'm gonna set up a fish quarantine and a coral quarantine and all of these things, like make my corals sit in 2 to 3, tanks before I add it in, because it's a big tank, it's gonna be hard to get rid of any kind of pests or algae or whatever that are going on. So I was a fool, kind of overestimated how bottled bacteria works. Definitely wouldn't use it again to seed my tank, just because I feel like in previous tanks that I've had, the 40-gallon, the BioCube, I always seeded it with live rock. And my second tank, I seeded it with the live rock from the first. This was the only tank, this 220-gallon tank right here. This is the first one I've never used any kind of pre-established rock in my tank when setting it up. And I swear that that's the reason why I keep getting these bacteria blooms and I keep having issues where the tank just does not feel like it's matured at all. Most of the time, it just feels like I just set up this tank, and it's my first larger tank. I've only had 29 gallons, 40 gallons before this, never anything of this size. So I went into it assuming that things would be a little bit different. I mean, it would take longer for things to mature. It would take longer for the corals to grow in and really show, I guess, the tank coming together. But I didn't anticipate that we're sitting at now 2 years. Let's say 2 years it's been established. And I just feel like it's been the ugly stage this entire time. And I really just think it's because the tank lacks any kind of wild beneficial bacteria. My plan moving forward, as soon as possible, the next big purchase for my tank will definitely be getting some live rock shipped, seeding that into my tank, adding some more beneficial bacteria. I will of course have to quarantine the rock before I put it in my tank, because with live rock from the ocean, you don't know what you're gonna get. So I don't want to take any kind of crazy chances or anything. I'm going to quarantine it. Definitely something I want to do ASAP, because I feel like this is where all my problems are kind of stemming from. So that was kind of the easiest way to sum up all of the things that happened. I have to admit, I'm really happy with where it is right now. The corals look a lot better, night and day, with the exception of the Duncan. But I have a sneaky suspicion that the Duncan has been remained closed up, because there's a much larger Duncan colony sitting in the back of my aquascape. And the issue is the bubble monster. So this bubble coral was the first coral I ever added into my tank. So it's really sentimental to me. And the reason why I've kept it all of these years, even though I'm not particularly fond of it, it has grown to the size of a basketball now. It's quite difficult to truly capture the size of the corals with my camera. I mean, they look so small when you're staring at the tank, but these corals are absolutely enormous, especially the bubble, which unfortunately has these long stinging tentacles, and it has been reaching back and stinging the Duncan colony that's at the back. And I think it getting stung, it's releasing some kind of warnings to the other Duncan up front, and that's why it's closed up. Either that or it's getting stung by something else. I don't know. I'm not particularly truly troubled by it, because it seems happy despite its being retracted. But it's definitely something I have to look into, because this thing is kind of becoming a little bit of an eyesore. Other than that, I do want to say that my corals are really thriving again, and I'm really happy about it. The hammers are fluffy, and I have way too many of them. I'm sitting on so much Holy Grail torch. It's just ridiculous at this point. I have a lot of the same corals and few different corals, which is kind of bothering me a little bit. It's gonna take some time. I've come to realize with this tank that it's not gonna look filled out and everything overnight, just because you have to wait for the corals to grow so big for you to even really be able to see them. I'm just not used to that, and I kind of wish I thought about that more when I was selecting a different tank, a new tank build, because this is a lot of work that's gonna have to take place here. From the Cipro dip though, I did notice that the only kind of thing that went wrong was that my rock flower anemones have just retreated into the rock, and I cannot spot them whatsoever. Not happy about that, to say the least, but I mean, hopefully they'll come out. Hopefully they're not, traumatized by that. My other anemone is so happy that it's split. I mean, maybe it's happy, maybe it's not, but I mean, it's doing well. So maybe it's just a rock flower thing. I don't know why they're so angry, but hopefully they'll come around. And I've just had crazy growth in a lot of the corals that you can't even really see when looking straight at my tank. I mean, look at the size of these digis. They're just huge now. And so are these plating montes. I mean, they're just encrusting like crazy. I definitely kind of want to move them forward just because they're so freaking cool. I know it's just going to take time for me to be able to see them because it's just a growth time thing, but I don't know, it'd be kind of cool to like position them more up front, I guess. But the acros though, y'all, this is the part that I'm truly like starting to be happy about, because I just thought I was totally incapable of keeping acros, but after adding the Cipro, a lot of these guys have been on the mend and coming back and slowly gaining color. I mean, they have encrusted on the rock like crazy. They're starting to color up again. They turned like completely brown and they're starting to get a little bit of that color back. Just looking so good. Polyps out, super happy. I mean, that makes me really happy. Some of the colors like on these guys on the left have really come out. I'm hoping maybe this is the start of something good. You know, like maybe for the first time I'll keep proper like colonies of acros. I don't know, we'll see. So that is all that has been going on with my 220-gallon tank. And honestly, I'm really happy that it's on the way to better days, or at least, you know, I have a plan for better days. Going to be uploading a lot more soon, so y'all better stay tuned because bar results don't come out until October. So I got nothing but YouTube videos to record now, so stay tuned. I will try to be posting weekly from now on for a little bit and see how that goes. I miss you guys and miss uploading to YouTube. And David, stop playing music in the background of my YouTube video.
Sorry.